have a copy.
Well, that is just,
I might be the only one.
We haven't decided anything yet.
No,
All we did is act on
There's some additional claims.
or pursuing getting out of it.
But that we still don't have to do it.
We didn't act on it.
Okay, sounds good. I think you should say number 1, number 2.
I tried that.
Yeah, I know you did.
Yeah, and
That's
then
how it happened.
did you notice she started over with her numbering at
Yeah.
the 35, the
Yeah,
35
it was getting
25?
late.
It was a mess.
and then, was I missing like, or were we missing like a 14?
I didn't
It
even
was
pay
14
attention.
and 15?
After she told me, I
What
thought,
was
and at
that?
the time I
What?
seen they were getting finally out of here, I
There you go.
thought, no, 14's here.
Is it, there was one of them that I was like, oh.
12 isn't here.
Okay.
12, maybe that's what it,
13.
You have
Okay.
14?
14.
oh,
I got
that's
14.
my total blank.
okay, yeah, there was one of them, I
Oh,
was like,
yeah,
oh, maybe.
but you caught
And then I was trying to look for
Hi.
it, and I'm like,
How are you?
maybe it wasn't.
You want me here?
Yep, please. You're front and center.
I'll get you copies of
2-hour late start already.
the financials too. I have an extra copy though. I'll get you one lately.
Did you send that? You did.
I just finished it today, so.
I know Danielle said hers up in the city.
You ready, Michelle?
Was it?
I don't know if they're colder than this or not.
But they have so many lakes up there.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 5:30, so I will call our meeting to order. Michelle, would you please do roll call?
Steve Heron,
Here?
Benny Workmeister,
Here.
Jean Unruh,
Here.
Nicole Jacobs,
Here.
Carol Hunkell.
Here.
Great, thanks. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda item number 2 is approval of the agenda. I would entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say aye. Carried. Item number 3 is public forum. Anybody here, you're on the agenda, so looks like we have nobody here from the public. So we'll move on to item number 4, city announcements. Michelle?
About all I can, just a reminder for people to scoop their walks. After the snow, you have 24 hours. Other than that, I don't think I really have anything. Try to get down to my section.
Okay. Item number 5 is our consent agenda. I would entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on any items?
There is one correction I did find. The workshop on 129, we ended at 8:18, not 8:48. I put 8:48 on both times,
Okay.
so I will.
I never did find my sheet.
Eight.
I don't think I brought home the thing, or I left it late.
Okay. Anything else on the consent agenda?
Oh, I did have that circle too. Yeah?
All right. So assume we're ready to vote. All in favor of approval of the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Carried. All right.
The gals that just came in, I know they weren't here for the public forum. Are you here for the public?
Did you?
No,
We're just here to listen to.
Okay.
Okay. That's good. You
Okay.
didn't miss your opportunity. But good to see you again. All right. Item number 6, presentation from Steve Hallgren, Planning Solutions. Do you want to introduce him if you would like to?
Yes, I'm Carol Hunkell, which I know we just talked on the phone, but I was here the last time. I think Steve and I were both when you presented your being a grant writer and all these different things that you do. And so we asked him if he would come and talk to us, because we're thinking we've got a lot of issues coming up that we might need a grant writer, or maybe one of your other little things on your menu that you do could help us out.
Absolutely. You're on.
And I think
Sounds
they all
good.
got that basic sheet. Everybody got one. So,
Okay, perfect. So, well, thank you, everybody, for having me here again this evening. It's been a couple of years. I think it was a couple of years ago, I had a chance to visit with the council. So, you know, just a little bit since then, Planning Solutions has grown a lot. It's keeping me very, very busy. But I'm up to 8 clients that I'm contracting with on an annual basis now. And then I'm doing special projects for other communities all around Northwest Iowa. But tonight, Carol asked me to come to visit with you guys a little bit, specifically about some grant opportunities and some grant writing services that possibly I could help the city with. And so that's, if you guys want to indulge me, I brought a little bit of information. And I'll leave everything I have with the city clerk tonight. I printed copies off. But I'm really just going to kind of go through you know, several programs that I'm familiar with. And I don't know, maybe a point to start with is just maybe a little background, kind of more or less what the city's thinking, as far as, are you thinking more downtown stuff, like revitalization type projects? Are you thinking more public infrastructure projects? Are we talking trails projects? Are we talking recreation, community development, or like all the above?
All the above.
Yeah.
When you looked at that list, we have specific items that would fit each one of those categories.
Absolutely.
I think so.
So I'm going to start off with a couple of what I would consider small grant opportunities, which are more intended to be like planning type related, to help facilitate kind of maybe guiding the city into a little bit clearer direction, maybe of how they want to go forward with some of these larger capital projects maybe. The state of Iowa has a couple opportunities. One is specific to the downtown. It's called the downtown assessment. It's a smaller grant. It's $2,500, but this one is it's sponsored by the Iowa Downtown Resource Center, and they will send professionals to your community. And it says here they'll spend up to about 3 days, and they'll visit with local downtown business owners to get a feel for their needs, what's working, what's not working. They'll interview community stakeholders, but it's all kind of centered around the downtown area. And then they will prepare a written report, which details short and long range recommendations to the city for how the city might want to move forward with doing some downtown revitalization type projects. So that's one, that's the downtown assessment grant. There's a new grant that the state just released this January 2025, and it's called the Rural Boost Program. And BOOST is an acronym. The state loves their acronyms, but it technically stands for Rural Building Ownership and Organization by Strengthening Teams. That's a mouthful. So again, this is on the smaller side of the grants. This is a $10,000 grant from the state of Iowa. The city would need to sponsor or match it $5,000. So sort of a 2-to-1 grant to local ratio. But if the city can front 5, the state will fund you 10. And then a smaller portion of that pays for 3 to 5
up to 3 to 5 professionals from different state organizations that will come to your community as a team. And then the city would need to put together a steering committee of 7 to 10 individuals comprised of local organizations, schools, maybe major businesses, nonprofits, and then a couple of city representatives. That steering committee will work with the professionals. They'll go through an in-depth stakeholder meeting and then facilitate goals and objectives. They will present a series of recommendations. I'm also told that they will help assist with additional funding opportunities for some of their recommendations that they come up with. And then at the end, the city is left with $10,000 basically to use as seed money for either a larger project or to help support like additional engineering fees, additional design fees. If one of the recommendations is to update a city plan, they could pay for a consultant to do planning services. It could do a housing plan. So as you guys are aware, $10,000 doesn't go very far, but it's a little bit of seed money at the end of this process. But again, it's more in depth and more tuned into identifying, you know, goals and strategies of the community. It's not as intensive as, say, like a comprehensive plan, which takes months on end to do, and it's looking at several different facets of the community. This is it's a short-term planning process, but it's more of an intensive, in-depth planning process. And like I said, and you tap into a lot of the resources from the state. So that's the Rural Boost program. So those are a couple of the smaller, what I would call like planning type grants that are out there. Let me move to a couple of, let's get into some actual grant programs. One that I really like lately, and it's probably because I've had a lot of success in writing these, but I think it's a fantastic program. This one is through the Iowa Economic Development Authority, IEDA, through the state of Iowa. It's called the Community Catalyst Program, if you've heard of it or familiar with it. It's been going for probably, I would say, oh gosh, probably close to 8 to 10 years now. And Debbie Durham loves this program. Governor Reynolds loves this program. They started out funding it at like $1 million a year. They fund this program at a flat $100,000 award per project. You do the math, that's 10 projects statewide. Doesn't seem to go very far. It's gained so much traction and so much popularity that the state's highest officials kind of find these other programs and they kind of keep ponying in money to this program. Last year they had like $3.5 to almost $4 million. So they're funding over 30 projects a year. So that goes a lot further as far as the request coming into this. There is a match required, and it is a public-private partnership. More on the private sector. You really need a downtown business owner that owns a building that's really interested in reviving that building and becoming a catalyst to other owners in the downtown to see, you know, hey, if we invest in our building, maybe they'll do something as simple as put a new awning on, or replace those old windows that need replacing, or paint the front of their building. So if this major project can have an impact and spur, you know, some other residual economic development benefits for the community, that's the purpose of this program. It used to be, I would say, a dollar for dollar match. Lately, and I would say typically just with construction costs now, and to be more competitive, the state is seeing about $1.50 per dollar match. So, I mean, just doing the rough math, $100,000 grant award, they're expecting about $150,000 local match. So you're talking about a $250,000 project. I'll tell you, the grants that I've written, one was a $350,000 project, one was almost a $500,000 project. But these are taking 2-story buildings. They're gutting the main floor, they're creating new business spaces, bringing in new business, new tenants, creating jobs in the community. They're also looking at doing the upper floors, creating apartments, doing upper story housing. The state eats that stuff up with the upper story housing. They're just on a kick with that, and it just scores a lot of points. So, you know, those are opportunities that if you find the right local owner who says, yeah, you know, my building needs some attention, it needs some work, but I just can't go in full-fledged right now. Sometimes this $100,000 can help, and it's just enough for them, you know, to pull that trigger and do that major project. So it's a fantastic program. It applies every year. The timing of my meeting with you guys is bad on this one because the applications just went in mid-January. You have to be, that's like a 2 to 3 page preliminary application. If you get invited for a full application, those are due in April of each year, and then they announce the awards in June. And then you are given a full 2 years to do the project with the contract. So honestly, we get into about September, October, it's not a bad time to start talking about that because it does take a good month or so to work through the nuts and bolts of that application. That's one that's really good. Not necessarily just downtown, but community-wide. There's a couple of programs. Again, I don't know specifically what the needs are of the community, but I'll just share everything I brought with you. There are programs that a lot of cities that our clients of mine work with too tap into to simply remove older, dilapidated buildings that are just no longer feasible. One is through, again, Iowa Economic Development Authority. The other is through the Iowa Department of Natural Resources, the Iowa DNR. IEDA has one called Nuisance Property and Abandoned Building Remediation Loan Program. The key word to this is loan, not necessarily grant. So it's not as probably popular, but it is a good source if the city needs to get involved, because this is for buildings that the city is basically, I don't want to say fighting with, but sometimes it comes down to that. But if the city needs to intervene and has gone through the nuisance code process and has deemed the building either a dangerous structure or it's a nuisance property and the owner is not going to put money into it and the city is basically looking at possibly even taking it over, the city could apply to the state for these funds. The loans range from 0% to like 1%, it says. And they can be anywhere from 12 to 60 months. So you can see it's very favorable lending, but it is a repayable. But it's something that if a city absolutely needs to take a building down, they could tap into this as some assistance. The other one, which is a grant program per se, is through the Iowa DNR. That's called the Derelict Building Grants Program. You guys may or may not have heard of that. It's a popular program. They have a funding sheet here that gives a quick breakdown. They do everything from, again, typically it's to the point when the city owns these buildings too. So a lot of this won't go towards tearing down buildings that are still in private hands. But if it's to a point where there's a building that's derelict enough to the point where the city is either forced to take it over or needs to take it over, this can be of great help. One of the problems, sometimes cities don't want to get involved in that, is, as you guys might be aware, once the city takes the building over, it becomes public property, now you're kicking in like asbestos abatement and some of those things, and that can get extraordinarily expensive. This program, I've worked with some cities that have done multi-year applications and projects. This will pay for 100% of an asbestos inspection. It will pay for up to 100% of asbestos-containing materials disposal or removal, up to 10 grand. You can apply for specific engineering if there's any type of structural issues, if you think it's going to be an issue taking a building down. But otherwise, once they get to actual deconstruction, community the size of Paullina could apply for up to $50,000, and that's a dollar-for-dollar match. So it's 50% grant up to a maximum of $50,000. I just worked with, one of my client cities that I work with is Sibley, and they just took down a massive old cement plant with this grant program. It had like 6, 7 buildings. It had like a smoke tower, probably 60, 70 feet tall. The main cement plant building was probably 4 stories tall. It was on 11 acres of property. It was a big piece of property. It was a big old cement plant, and it just was dilapidated, and it sat there for like 20 years, and nobody wanted to touch it. It was like a brownfield site, and so the city had ownership of it, and they got money to come in. There's a couple of even local businesses that I've worked with in the area that I'm familiar with that are really good with working with this program. If you're familiar with like, and you guys know like local excavators and stuff too, but I've worked with like Bohr and Sons out of Hull. They'll do a lot of these big demolition projects. I've also worked with a company out of Sheldon, big company, what's the guy's name? Anyway, it's slipping me, but he's located in Sheldon, and he does a lot of heavy demolition type work too. But that's an opportunity. This program is typically, I think the funding is in the fall of the year for the application, but I would have to check into that a little bit further specifically on the timing of that. But both of those are good programs. Moving on, I know you guys got a full schedule, so I apologize. So I'm going to kind of go a little bit quicker. So if we're talking about infrastructure, you guys are probably familiar with state of Iowa does tap into federal dollars through HUD for what's called the Community Development Block Grant Program. They have a couple of divisions that they will fund. They will fund water and sewer infrastructure projects. They will also fund, they have a different pool of funds for community facility type projects. Community facility type projects that they like to fund are like daycare type projects, projects that have impacts with persons with disabilities, work centers, those types of things. Unfortunately, they won't do fire stations, they won't do police stations, they won't do city halls, they won't do any of those. But the infrastructure is a very popular program. I will tell you those grants are, unfortunately with a lot of things, just the trends over the last 20 years, the funding has continued to do this and the requests have continued to do this. So it's getting more and more competitive, each and every year. But those funds are out there and available. You do need to have an engineer hired and on hand. You would need to have some preliminary engineering work done and, hard numbers to go in for an application, preliminary designs probably done. A lot of communities will tap into the state revolving loan fund through the Iowa Finance Authority for local matching funds on some of these bigger infrastructure projects. So, again, the size of Paullina, you guys are probably looking at being maxed out at about 600,000. But as you guys are aware, some of these projects can go into $1 million, $2 million, $3, $4 million projects. So it doesn't take a lot, especially if you're talking about major wastewater treatment or water system improvements, water towers, water treatment plants, rural water connections. They will do a lot of those. A lot of the smaller projects, they won't do anything that is either considered maintenance or even deferred maintenance, but they will do major upgrades, replacements, those types of things. So that's kind of on that infrastructure side. Jumping real quickly into REAP through the Iowa DNR. You guys might have heard of REAP. They fund a lot of good activities each and every year. It's just a super, super highly competitive program. So I'm not trying to sound like the downer, but I want to keep it real for all you guys. But REAP is a good source. Again, for Paullina falls into the small city category, and they are eligible for a maximum $50,000 grant through REAP. But REAP is fantastic if you're looking at doing trail projects, trail connections, land acquisition for trails, trailhead improvements, regular typical city park type stuff gets a little bit harder just because it's so competitive. This last year, I pulled the statistics for 24, and in 24, in the small city category, they had 18 applications for 1.1 million. They funded 5 for 285,000. And out of those 5, they had a sanctuary park project. They had a city park enhancement project with what looks to be a shelter, ADA accessible restrooms, picnic tables. They had a neighborhood park project. And some of these projects get unique too, kind of if you're on like a niche or a neat, a unique project. The trailhead project tied in solar power and that for they had a phased project of a multi-phased trail, which again, if you guys have done trail projects lately, they were awarded 75,000. They matched it with 75,000, and they were proposing to do a quarter-mile trail segment. So it just doesn't go as far as it used to anymore. And working with the DNR, working with the DOT, if you guys have done trails projects lately, the standard that the state uses now is 10-foot wide rebar, 6 inches deep minimum. Basically, the old adage is trails now are like doing a paving project for like a mini highway. It's almost kind of silly, but that's what it's gotten to. So if you're using grant programs, a lot of communities out there, I know, get creative, and even client cities that I work with, they've gotten really creative, and they've either purchased or borrowed or used their own paving machines, and they'll have volunteers come out and they'll run 8-foot wide trails. A lot of cities are still doing 8-foot wide trails. So that's kind of the REAP program for trails. The other program for community development that I want to visit with you about a little bit has been around for a long time, probably at least since 2000, and that is the community attraction and tourism. Kind of falls under several years ago, they kind of revamped it a little bit. kind of wrapped everything under an umbrella of what they call the Enhance Iowa funding program. But the CAT still does exist. Again, I just grabbed a press release from the state from December 2024, so just a couple months ago. And they funded 4 recent projects. So again, recent projects that were funded include a museum and library. They had a trail paving project of 1.5 miles in a small community. They had a prairie recreation area project in a combination city and county. And then they had a sports recreation complex project that got $500,000. So the umbrella of community development is really broad-based, but community development will fund, the CAT project will fund trails, it will fund sports recreation complexes, ball fields, it will fund those community center type projects, community center / library. It will get into a lot of those. Again, fortunately, swimming pools, splash pads, aquatic centers, all of that type of stuff will be funded under CAT. So it's a good program that's still out there. It's got a long-standing history in the state. It's kind of, but it's a good program. So they used to do quarterly applications. Now they're just kind of, the state funds it to the tune of, I think, $5 million annually. And they just have a running, kind of ongoing rolling list of applications. And now they're just down to an open window of application. So it's an online application with the state. And at such point, if you're ready to move forward and proceed, you would reach out to the state, open that conversation, dialogue with them. And then just make application. And then you just kind of go on the list. If it doesn't fall into the funding for the $5 million for the current fiscal year, it goes onto the list for the next fiscal year. So, yeah. And then those are kind of what I wanted to highlight. I did go on to the Iowa League of Cities website. They do have some great resources. I printed them off. Again, I'll leave everything for the city clerk. They have an entire list of federal funding sources. That's about 5-6 pages. And then I printed off, I think, 7 pages for state of Iowa funding programs, funding opportunities. So a lot of information to absorb in there. But did I kind of hit on some things that you think might work, or?
I got a couple questions.
Absolutely.
For the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the IIJA, is that the one that you were talking about? You had said something about infrastructure.
I was referring to the Community Development Block Grant. It's referred
Okay,
to as CDBG.
Mm-hmm. Yep, okay.
And that's federally funded. It's administered through the Iowa Economic Development Authority, but it's actually federal dollars.
Okay, because I was just looking at the IIJA one.
Okay.
They had for Iowa $5.08 billion, and you can use that for lighting. Have you
Okay.
heard about, or do
Did
you
you
have
say B
info?
with $1 billion?
Mhm.
Okay.
I don't know if that's what I had on there. It seems like a lot,
No,
but
that's
that's also a federal grant, so
Right.
of course that's going to be
right.
nationwide. But so you don't know anything about that one then?
I'd be glad to look into it. There's so many across the board. There's literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds
Sure.
of grants all
Yeah.
over. But
I don't know.
and if that, what you're talking about, is that nationwide, the 5.08 billion nationwide?
I think so, yeah. I just
Yeah.
have Iowa on here, but
Yeah.
it was Signify funding. And then you can go through a local retailer, which is Adventure Lighting out of Des Moines.
Okay,
So it's just some
okay.
looking that I was
Like
doing.
street lighting?
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay.
I don't know if that's something, I know
That's-
we were talking about that, but I don't know if it's
I will check into it.
be a big project if we're looking at.
What we're looking at is we you know, we hear of cities around that have gotten grants to help with projects. We haven't gotten a large grant for a while, I don't think, and we seem to find out about grants, you know, it's like, had we done things differently
Right.
in the early planning stage, then we would qualify for grant.
Right.
So how do we get proactive with looking at grants, you know,
Right.
planning process?
Right. And, you know, to be honest with you, especially some of these federal grants too, they are targeting and are specific typically to like a low and moderate income need. And so there's a lot of legwork that goes into the upfront, just the application process of surveying. You have to survey the community. If the community doesn't meet the census economic statistics, you'd have to go out and do a physical survey. And that might include anything from doing phone survey to actually beating the sidewalks and doing door-to-door knocking. So I did that in a community, you know, of almost 3,000 people knocking on, you know, fortunately we weren't, the state doesn't make you do every single household, but you can, in a larger community, you can get by with a sampling. But the sample in Paullina might be most of the households anyway. So I think the sample size they top out at is about 500 households. So,
About what we got.
you know, if Paulina's 1,000 plus people, aren't you around 1,100, 1,200?
975 or
Okay,
so,
okay.
population, about 500 households.
So, yeah, if you're talking around about 500 housing units, you might be in that ballpark of knocking on, walking block to block to block. So, but it's a simple survey, but some of those programs actually have criteria that you need to meet just to make eligibility. And then you have to determine eligibility before you're even able to apply. A lot of the USDA rural development grants, I didn't spend a lot of time talking about that, but that's another federal funding source, different agency. CDBG is through HUD. USDA has community development and rural infrastructure grants as well. Again, a lot of USDA related to income-based. A lot of times they use more statistical data. They're more census-driven than the HUD programs. But if you're qualifying, a lot of communities will apply for rural development grants for those are good for the fire station projects, the police department projects, the city hall type projects. They will fund those kind of public purpose buildings, but they can also do infrastructure. But the state RLF, which I mentioned, kind of as a local match, it's a good funding source. Practically any engineering firm, who do you guys typically use for engineering? Pauline here.
DGR for some projects and Beck Engineering for some projects.
Okay. So I'm familiar with both of those firms. I worked with them for years. And both are great firms, highly qualified. Both firms know all about our SRF funding. A lot of times the engineers will actually help you make the SRF application for the loan funding for those projects. You know, a lot of times engineering firms, they don't necessarily tip you off to the federal grant programs. You know, but so there are some out there. And if you guys get into a major infrastructure project, you know, sewer, wastewater, storm sewer, a lot harder application, but sewer and water are more competitive. But a lot of times somebody like myself, a consultant, or somebody else will come in and work hand in hand, partner with the engineering firm. A lot of times the engineering firm will help offset the work with the SRF side, do the paperwork for the SRF. I would come in and work on like the CDBG side of the grant to try to secure the grant funding for the project. And then obviously you have the loan dollars through the state to offset the local match.
How do you typically work with your 8 client cities? I mean, what's that interaction back and forth, and who do you work with that goes, is it council, is it city staff? Is
So-
it clerk? Is it-
Yeah, so I don't want to come here like I'm selling my services, but I'd be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit. But in kind of what I talked about a couple years ago with you guys, so the core work of what I do for consultation services with my clients is anything from zoning administration to floodplain management and to code enforcement and nuisance abatement. Kind of those 4 areas. So like right now, I'm the full-time zoning administrator and code enforcement officer for the city of Sheldon. I'm the full-time zoning administrator and code enforcement officer for the city of Sibley. I am hired on a part-time hourly basis for code enforcement and nuisance services for Hospers. Small town, they don't need me full-time. And they don't want to pay my annual contract.
They're similar size to us in comparison to the others. Yeah.
Right, so what I do with them is, I just charge them my hourly rate. But they will call me up and they'll say, Steve, we've got these 3 houses that are problem houses we want you to look at, we want you to deal with them. So, honestly, I don't even have to sell my services a lot more with some of these cities, because what it does is it removes city staff and it removes council and all of that from that image of going after somebody in town, especially if it's a nuisance property. And what it does is it puts it on me as a third-party independent contractor, which I have no ties to the community. So I call somebody up and I say, I was just hired to do a job, I'm doing my job, the code says this, you're in violation of the code, either clean it up or you're gonna get a fine. And I'm about that straightforward. And that's kind of what Hospers has me do. So I do that, my home office, my home base is in Spencer, that's where my office is. I do those same services for the small town of Fostoria, just north of Spencer. They hire me on an hourly basis if they've got an issue with a single property or a couple properties or something like that. But I do annual contracts with smaller communities of 1,000 people too. So, on my annual contract work, again, I'm just primarily there as a resource for the community. I generally do a lot more than just what's within I've mentioned to you, but I will help the cities go through if they have any type of work in their code that needs updating. I can help you guys update that. If there's certain areas of the code that might need tweaking, if you hired me to do nuisance abatement, one of the first things I would do is go through the city's nuisance code, see if that needs to be shored up anywhere. I've gone in, I've made a lot of changes, updates to cities' sign regulations, or if they have issues with fences, or if they have issues with accessory buildings, or if they have issues with other stuff in the community. Parking regulations, some of those things. I've written amendments, help cities go through the process, get those adopted, get their codes up to date, that type of stuff. So I can do that service as well. But just recently, I've been retained by one county to do county-wide services. And I just met with the Board of Supervisors on a second potential county. So ironically, they're just, and again, it wasn't even me going out and soliciting my services. They reached out to me because they had people just through arbitration or age or whatever retire out from that position. And the counties said, do we really have a budget to do a full-time employee plus benefits plus all this stuff to do just this work? And if we don't, then if we knock it down to a part-time position with no benefits, who are we gonna find locally with the expertise to do it well? Or the third option is do we look at contracting, doing a simple 1099 contract with a private consultant? And that's where I can step in and say, I can consult with you guys on an ongoing basis, and some of my clients find that appealing, so they don't have to hire an employee, and they don't have to do all the benefits and do all that stuff, and it just keeps it simple.
So you got the city code side of things and zoning and enforcement, and then we've got the, which we handle somewhat. The grant thing we're really lacking on. So,
Yep.
So with your client cities, do you contract, how do you get compensated for grant handling?
So, yeah, and so I actually brought that too, so, yeah, that's sort of the $1 million question. How do I get paid for that? Typically, that's not included in my contracted services. So grant writing, I just have a simple fee service, and I've just structured it kind of small grants, medium, and then the really big grants. So anything from 0 to basically $100,000, I charge $500 for the grant writing and submittal services. 100,000 to 250 falls into the $1,000 range, and then any grants of 250,000 or more, it's 1% of the grant request, but not to exceed $5,000. So, and surprisingly, sometimes those add up. I just wrote a grant here last month for one of the cities. Called me up and they wanted assistance, and we wrote an $860,000 FEMA assistance to firefighters grant for a new truck. So, if you guys are familiar with fire departments, even volunteer fire departments, just a pumper truck, $860,000. So, so if you can get 85% of that federally funded, that helps a long ways.
Right.
So that, again, highly competitive. I never build my expectations up too high, because I tell them it's a competitive program, especially the FEMA assistance to firefighters. That's a nationwide grant. But it does happen. If they're good projects will get funded. That's the way I look at it. And I've been writing grants long enough. You go in and you can either get a good feeling that this is a really, really good, solid project, or you can go in and you can write the whole thing and submit it and say, I hope it gets funded. kind of a deal. So, so that's the grant writing side. Grant administration, I'll be perfectly honest with you, there's some grants that don't require any administration on my part. Sometimes there's just a little bit of paperwork that the city clerk needs to do, a simple one-page annual report, simple claim process. If the city can do that, great. You get into the larger, like several $100,000 million community development block grant type projects, they can be very, very administratively heavy. Those projects, typically, I've got a fee of 10%, not to exceed $25,000. But we've done projects, the federal regulations just keep hammering down more and more and more. But you get these federally funded projects on CDBG block grants now, you have to go out, you have to follow all the federal procurement rules, you have to make sure that everything is solicited, gone through, dotted I's, crossed T's for the procurement process. Once you hire, you have to do verification checks on every contractor, subcontractor, subcontractors. And then once you get into construction, we actually have to go on site regularly and do wage employee surveys. And we have to verify and document that all of the employees working on the project meet federal minimum wage standards. because they're federal dollars going on the project. So they actually publish a list of the prevailing wages for a plumber, for an excavator, for, large equipment operator. And, some of these guys love bidding on projects, because what they would normally bid out and pay their employees $25, $30 an hour, they get a federally funded CDBG project, their employees might be making $60, $70 an hour on that project, because they have to be paid the minimum wage. And then I have to go out there on site, and I have to interview the employees on site, and I have to ask them like a 2-page questionnaire, are you getting paid this? Are you getting paid regularly? Is anybody coercing you or threatening you to withhold your pay? All of those types of things. So it's just, I'm not trying to scare anybody off of it, but those larger federal grants can be a little bit more administratively intensive, and that's where the larger administration costs come into play. So there are 2 facets of it, and I have this sheet that I'll leave with all the information here, but this is sort of my fee structure sheet. So there's minimal fees. The upfront fees for writing is not a lot, but it's just to compensate the 1 day, 2 day, 3 days worth of my time in writing the application, working with the city clerk, making sure it gets submitted, and everything's good to go. And then on the back side of it, if there's administration, I'm more than glad to help out if it's needed. If the city can do the administration on your own, more power to you. So.
Okay. Any questions council has on that information? Staff?
And if you guys do come up with something that, I'm not just limited to what I talked about tonight. These are just the programs that I'm most familiar with. A lot of them are state. Going back to how I said I like that Community Catalyst Downtown grant, that $100,000. One of the reasons I like it is because it's state funded. It's funded through the state of Iowa. There's very, very, very little red tape. The state says, we've got this money, we want to dole it out to the communities, we want to get it out there quick, and they did not tie it up with red tape, which is nice. It makes it so nice for the city's benefit. And there's hardly any administration on that.
And that's the one where you said, I think it was, what, $1.50 of private investment for every dollar?
Per dollar, yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So,
That's one that might work for our bank.
yeah.
Okay.
Is that the bank, are you guys talking about the bank with the stone?
Yeah.
The white stone? Okay. Is that empty?
Yes,
Has
It's
been
vacant?
has been for many years.
Okay.
quite a while.
It's a prominent building. It would be
I know.
a great project. You just need to find that owner that wants to jump in feet first.
We haven't
And,
seen that
You
owner.
could go both ways with it, with that
Yeah.
project.
yeah,
Because you hate to see it down, because it is such a prominent place,
right,
but it has been sitting there quite a while with nothing, so.
yeah.
Well, we appreciate you coming.
Absolutely. So, and, if there's something along the way that, like I said, if there's something else that I can assist you guys with at any time, I'm more than glad to do that. It doesn't have to be an annual. I would love to be able to contract with you guys to work on an annual basis if you want to go that route. But if you want to retain my services for just a small project or a special project, or if it's not grant writing, if it's something, I do code updates, zoning updates, comprehensive plans.
Sure.
I do those planning documents as well that I would just contract on a contract basis.
What are you running into with cities nowadays with the levy limits and stuff that the state are putting in, and that the cities are having problems with staffing properly and doing projects and stuff? Are you running into any pushback from Inland Services?
Not particularly. Yeah, I guess, a lot of the cities I work with, they're probably a little bit more on the conservative side of budgeting for that. They're not out there clamoring to do these projects every couple of years.
Yeah.
They might, okay, we can push that we can push that code update back another year, we can push that, you know, zoning update back another year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever. So, you know, I will tell you, the state of Iowa, and it's even in the state code, but there's so many cities that don't follow it, but they recommend that you either do annual updates to your municipal code, or you update it thoroughly once every 5 years. Well, there's cities out there that haven't touched their city code in 15, 20 years, you know, but they're missing out. They're missing out on a lot of, you know, they're missing out on a lot of Iowa laws. There's Iowa laws that are adopted every single year,
Right.
too, that probably need to go into city codes. You know, zoning ordinances, I would say larger communities that are more actively involved regularly with zoning, probably every 5 to 7 years. Smaller communities that have zoning but are okay with it, you can get by probably every 10 to 12 years. But it is good, again, to go through and look at, you know, how long has it been, and then, you know, should we update it at some point? So, you know, all those things. And then again, with the comprehensive plan, it's good to, you know, dust those off from time to time. But the nature of comprehensive plan is it's a long-term plan, and it's intended to last a while. There's cities that, you know, have gone 15, 20 years without updating their comprehensive plan. But on the same side of it, some of these grants that we just talked about too, will make reference to, you know, is the project you're applying for, is this part of a city's overall larger planning effort?
Sure.
So sometimes that's where it can be helpful if your plan is more up to date.
Sure.
You know, I don't know if the city of Paullina does like capital improvements planning. If you guys look at laying out like a 5-year capital improvements plan for infrastructure projects or something along those lines.
We're talking about getting better at that.
Right.
The goal.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. You know, and it's a great goal to strive for, absolutely. So,
Okay,
All right.
great, thanks for
Yeah.
the information.
hey, not a problem. I appreciate your guys' time, and I know I can rattle on, so I apologize for taking up your meeting time, but I will let you be. I'm gonna leave this information with you, and if you guys have any questions down the road at all, feel free to give me a call.
All right,
So,
thanks, Butch.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, we will move on to, well, before we move on from that, so think about where we're gonna go with all that information, and we'll put it on our agenda, follow up and discuss what we wanna,
Another
where
workshop.
we're gonna take all of that.
It's gonna take a workshop.
I think
Yep.
we almost need to get with like Kelly on some of the projects too, because
Yes.
like some of the ones that I have looked at are very easy ones, like $5,000 sign replacement. I don't know, but something he would know on some of those. Well, $5,000 would be great.
Yeah. Or that's because of what was that one small one we could get.
Pull out our one workshop list of capital projects,
Yep.
work on prioritizing those, so. All right. All right, we better keep moving on here then. Item 7, pre-authorized claims is a carryover from the last meeting. Michelle, this has been updated. Yep.
Yes.
You should have a resolution.
What page?
She handed it out tonight.
Oh, she did, okay.
It's with this grid on right here. Okay, if you have that, I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution approving the payment of pre-authorized claims as noted on resolution 2025-XX.
This one, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the resolution Be it resolved by the council of the city of Paullina, Iowa, that the city clerk be authorized to pay claims by the following vendors prior to submission of claims to the city council for approval be adopted. I don't need to say all of them, though.
No, I
Okay.
don't.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right. Discussion or questions? Hearing none, I assume you're ready to vote. Roll call, please, Michelle.
Steve Herron,
Aye.
Danny Workmeister.
Aye.
Jean Enra,
Aye.
Nicole Jacobs.
Aye.
Carol Hunkell.
Aye.
All right, all ayes. Okay. Agenda item number 8, fiscal 26 budget. This is page 19. This is to set our property tax levy hearing with the right timing to meet state requirements. So entertain a motion to approve that resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution. Resolution to set fiscal year 26 property tax levy public hearing for Monday, April 7th, 2025 at 5:30 PM.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Questions? Hearing none, roll call please, Michelle.
Carol Hunkell.
Aye.
Nicole Jacobs.
Aye.
Jean Enra.
Aye.
Danny Workmeister.
Aye.
Steve Herron.
Aye.
Okay. Agenda item number 9, Swanson Sports Complex. Michelle, do you want to explain this before we entertain a motion?
Right. I received a letter from Allers and Cooney wanting us to sign a conflict waiver. The school has approached them to have them represent them in a potential termination of 28E agreement and transfer the sports complex to the community school district. There is a grant that is attached to that sports complex. It's not going to be as easy as us transferring that. We can't just transfer it. Another thing to consider is we do use Allers and Cooney for our grant, or not our grant writing, our bonds. That's who D.A. Davidson uses as their bonding attorney. So that's something else to consider.
So a little bit of history is, at the last meeting, you as the council approved a motion to research turning over the sports complex to the school. You didn't act on that, but to actually do that process, but to research that. Coming out of that, the school talked to Allers and Cooney, who represents them, and therefore Allers and Cooney sent us, the city, a letter of a conflict of interest. So this action is just approving, signing that letter of understanding that we know that they are representing the school and that there could be a potential conflict of interest.
But
as we go out there.
if we don't agree to the waiver, they will not represent the school.
Oh, really?
Which I don't know, I guess I don't think that we should, but
That we should sign the waiver?
I don't think so.
I would agree with that. Not until we get legal counsel. Has our legal counsel said anything, or is she aware of the issue, or?
She did, I did send her the waiver. However, this grant came up after I had sent the waiver to Tisha, so she's not aware of everything that goes along with the potential transfer or sell of the Swanson.
So how's that grant muddy the water then? I mean,
It'll stay with the sports complex forever.
oh, okay.
How much was the grant? Do you have any clue?
75,000.
75?
And what was that grant used for?
Setting it up?
Yeah, doing the sports complex.
So is that any concern of ours then?
It is, because if we turn over this, or sell, or whatever, the sports complex to the school, we have to make up whatever the yellow book value of the sports complex is in property for that the city would have.
Is
So I
that that
don't,
letter you sent me from the DNR?
yep,
And that gets paid to the school now.
what does?
No, the school would have to
Pay us. wouldn't
pay
they?
us, but then
Pay
we would
us.
have to,
You would have to
we
respend.
would have to respend it.
For city stuff.
On,
or-
on a land and water conservation, that's something that falls into the land and water conservation fund.
Yeah.
We would have to spend that money, or at least have whatever the yield book value of the sports complex is, the city would have to spend that much money in order to be able to,
So when was that grant done?
1985,
Oh, so it was when it first initially was
See, in
done
those
then?
years, I don't see it all.
and it was completed in 1989, I
Yeah, I
think the
don't-
project
But
was.
it's, I mean, I skimmed through them.
So
Oh
the,
my God,
I got it here.
because the grants are, then we gotta do this yellow book assessment of the facility, including real estate.
Mhm.
And have you looked at that possibly or not, or? No, okay,
We haven't gotten that far.
yeah. It's getting a little sticky, right?
I do have,
Right.
I do have a call scheduled with Jessica at the DNR Thursday regarding this and in another matter that is potentially looking at one of these, at the same type of grant. So I'll know more Thursday.
Okay, so we don't know if it'll be $2, 75,000 or 100,000.
I assume it'd be more than the 75,000 that
Yeah.
gave us in 1985.
Yeah.
Right, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure the value's going up, yeah.
So who's on the commission? Do you even know?
I don't
Oh, on the sports commission?
Mm-hmm. I just know it's 2 members of the city council, 2 members of the school board.
I think you were on for us. Was it just you then?
I think so, and I
Thought
think
so too. Riley,
Wade and then,
Right, he waited, he
Right,
regularly.
Pete, Riley, and Riley.
So the action that we've taken so far is to approve moving forward to research the possibility of this.
Mhm.
This is obviously the type of thing we want to come up with and figure out, through research and determine, how complicated, if it's doable or not. If we, so we don't probably have to act on this letter.
We probably should though, just to say no, that we, well, I mean, I guess that's up to everybody.
Well, I feel we should wait until she talks to the DNR gal, just to see what other, who knows what somebody else might tell us
know.
before we act on it.
Yeah, what she tells us really doesn't have anything to do with the waiver.
Mm-mm.
All this
No.
waiver is doing is saying that there's a conflict of interest.
Yep.
If they represent the school, then it's a conflict of interest for us because they are our bonding attorney.
Okay, so then they gotta stick with us.
That's what they're,
And there's the school's bonding attorney as well, so they have to,
Find a new one. I get it.
well, or ultimately, I don't know which way they go.
I don't know
We'll
either.
find out through the process.
They may just tell you both to find somebody else.
Right.
Well, and that's the way it should, though. If you have a person that you're both working with, you shouldn't ask that person. It should be someone else.
So South O'Brien has contracted with them then, or?
Well, we both
we
have.
use, yeah,
Yeah,
we use dollars and
We
fees.
do.
school uses Allers and Cooley, city uses Allers and Cooley.
Yep, we have used
But
it.
they're asking us to, they want to represent the school, Cooney does.
I don't know if
He's not
they
really
want
asked.
to. They've been
Has
asked.
to.
I was gonna say that's how I interpreted the letter that they had asked, I guess, Can we just delay it? Signing of the letter, or do we have to make a decision, or?
But again, I don't think that it's gonna do, even if we, say no, that we're not going to, it's not gonna do anything for any other additional steps that we need to be doing at this point. They're probably gonna want that answer as soon as possible, though.
This could open a huge can of worms, I mean, the whole thing could.
Yes.
What do we, I guess I could look it up, but what do we have in the budget that we budgeted for the Swanson complex?
just the maintenance and then,
Not for that much.
no, I have to look.
Some
sure.
salary, we pay half the salaries and half the part of the water.
About 28,000, isn't it, somewhere in there?
Oh, I didn't think it was
I
that
don't
much.
think it's that
Well,
much.
that was the-
I'd say
9,000.
Maybe 10 or 14.
Then we paid the water bill.
After the
After
fact.
They,
Does that
after they
include
do
his
the first
wages?
one and we do the rest, or is it, we do the first and they do the rest?
The waivers
The
are
water.
just for mowing, half of
Yep.
the mowing.
Yeah,
That
but
wasn't much.
What, was it
7,000.
4,000?
What's that?
4,000 was it, or something?
No, well, I don't know. I thought total was 7 or 9 or something.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, whatever,
It's not
it's a
much.
big amount, it's not.
No.
So I guess the reason I brought that up, this could turn into quite an expense to depart from this 2080 agreement.
Well, we can
Compared
still
to-
depart from the 28E agreement, but the property would stay in the city's name.
Because it was originally
We
given
need
to
a,
us.
we need to change the 2080 agreement to their,
So it's to where maintenance is their responsibility, but the property stays in our name.
Well, it's actually the schools and the cities.
Yeah, it's half
The
of the city,
commission.
half
It's
of
to
the
the
half and
schools
half.
and then
It's a-
submit the Paullina Commission,
Okay.
the Sports
It's for
Complex
both.
Commission.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'd still have our part, but the school would have to do the maintenance if we change the 2080.
Okay.
So we're early in the process, we just have decided to move forward and research this. I'm not sure, do we have to sign this conflict of interest letter just to continue researching and
No.
find out what other complications we
I
have?
think we should wait till we know a little bit more.
I mean, I think we should either sign the letter or not sign the letter, and we can still do whatever we need to do. And
Yes,
if
and
the
that's
school
what
needs
I
to
feel.
find a different lawyer, and we need to find a different lawyer, then so be it.
Right. But I
If we
think
get to that
need
point,
to-
then we decide to move forward with
Right.
lawyers
I think we
involved.
gotta have more.
Well, what kind of brought some of this up whenever Marlon and I went to go and talk to Reichly, you know, they're talking about needing all new lights. And that could be on us too, because with this agreement,
It's half and half.
we're supposed to be doing that, but do we have an interest in it? So,
Part of, I think, what would have to be investigated is, it's like, okay, do we have to approve new lighting? You know, so, basically, like, the city ball field lights were, I wasn't here when, they were
200 and something, isn't it?
$250,000, let's say.
200 or 100?
I think it was over
Right
200.
around 200.
Yeah.
Okay.
So out there, they got two ball fields, one bigger ball field, and, you know, so they're looking at a significant expense.
Right.
We probably have to look, you know, part of our research might be, you know, to take a look at what our responsibility is if we don't approve participating in new lighting. You know, and how the costs are split then.
Right. What we
Our
have.
goal is to completely get out of this deal though, right? Property, ball fields, everything, right?
And if we
That's-
do get out of that, I know we have two projects that we've talked about that would probably come close to replacing what we have interest in out there would be the splash pad and the pickleball.
Right. So we still have something yet for the residents.
So I don't know if that would be something we could get. I don't know. I don't know how it all works.
Yeah,
Right.
and those would be some of your questions on Thursday to find out. Now, the splash pad, which is being funded by contributions, does that qualify as?
Splash pads are in the Land and Water Conservation Fund.
Okay,
There.
along with the pickleball? Okay,
I don't know specifically pickleball, but
okay.
Yeah.
the splash pad,
Regardless of who pays for them, you know, not if the city isn't paid for them out of tax dollars, but if they're contributions, that counts. But we want to make sure of those types of things
I
before.
thought the splash pad was going in the city park.
It is, it
So
doesn't
the
make any
city
difference where
park,
it
but
goes.
The city's not paying for
Right.
the
But
construction.
how does that go with the sports complex, or those two?
It just
two
has to be
different issues?
replaced
The-
to the city
dollars have to be-
resident.
what we have invested in the sports complex would have to be reinvested in the city's.
Through the
through
DNR.
Through the DNR
Yeah,
somehow,
right.
which I believe we could use the splash pad to replace what we have invested in the,
Yes, so there's ways,
To the
there's
sports
avenues that we can
complex.
do to get out of that and bring stuff to the city
But
park.
it still has to be, that we have stuff for the residents.
It does, but I think this
That was the
amended
original
agreement really needs to go through, because there's a lot of things in here that we are not doing. And I don't know, did you ever give this to legal? Did you ever give that to Tisha? I mean, she should have that,
She probably
but,
has it, because she helped write, or it was
no, this has been
there.
there, yeah.
And those were- You gave us all copies.
Mhm.
Yeah, we got
So
it.
again, we're back to starting research. Things are coming up. We just have to find out, all of the information, to make a decision.
I would really actually like to sit down with the school.
I think
With
that should be done. Meet with-
Riley
I've got that down.
and-
Meet with the school.
Right, like,
talk to
I would
them.
like to sit down with them.
I think that's what should be done.
I think that should have been done initially, before this letter
Well, I
was
don't
sent.
think we thought it was
We
gonna.
we didn't know
Go
the
into
letter was
that
gonna
with-
come, they just,
Well, but we wanted to kind of revisit this again.
That's
I know,
why-
but we didn't think
yeah,
that.
That's
was
why we
gonna-
voted to
Right,
go forward.
but we didn't know that it was gonna jump into the lawyers and everything right away. So,
so
I
we
think
need
we
a
should
motion.
table it. And do you meet with those guys, you two wanna do it again, and you talk to your DNR person, and before we jump into anything.
So we don't have a motion on the table to table.
I would like to continue, I would like to sign it, because again, it's not doing anything. If we sign it, it's just to get them to say, we want you to not just be with them, we want you to be with both of us. That's not gonna,
But if we sign this, that's not what that says.
No.
If
No.
we sign it, we are agreeing that they're.
oh yeah, no, sorry, then I don't want to sign it.
Okay.
I want them
Okay.
to not be
Otherwise, they're
just the
gonna
school, I want both of us.
So
Yeah.
exactly what does this mean if we sign it?
If we sign it, the Ellers and Cooney is gonna represent the school through this process of getting rid of the property, the sports complex.
And they're assuming that we'll use our city attorney or someone else.
Right.
Oh,
And
okay.
I think we should wait.
Yes, okay, I get what you're saying. Yes, I was thinking that it was switched the other way, that if we sign it, then they couldn't.
No.
No.
This is agreeing to that. So we don't have a motion. Does anybody want to make a motion, or does this topic die for lack of a motion?
I think it was
That's what happens,
dead.
right?
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Dead.
Yep,
Okay, we will not act on that with lack of a motion.
yep, sounds good.
Okay. And we will move forward based on our last direction to continue researching and meeting with the school and find
Right.
out all the complications.
Yep.
Okay.
Meet with the school.
Okay, agenda item number 10, nonprofit flyers. Is that one you handed out?
Yep, it is. It's,
2025-00.
Yep,
I
got it.
don't number until we know that.
Right, some are XX and some are
Yeah,
00.
yeah.
So do you just got that this evening, it was on the agenda, late last week, however, I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution to allow the inclusion of flyers in city quarterly mailings. Which with the motion and second, we put on the table for discussion and questions.
Sorry, I gotta find it.
There's one of the
Got it, it was
single
the
pages.
extra, one of the extras.
Anybody choose to make a motion?
Still looking.
Other than Nicole?
Okay. If I didn't find it, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution to allow the inclusion of the flyers for a nonprofit organization in the city's quarterly mailings. Be it resolved by the Council of the City of Paullina, Iowa, to allow the inclusion of flyers of nonprofit organizations in the city's quarterly mailings. The flyers cannot be on cardstock, be more than one page front back, and the city reserves the right to decline at their discretion.
There's a motion, do we have a second? Anybody choose to make the second?
And we have done this in the past for many years,
And I-
just to preface that, yeah.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
And
Yep.
I contacted Bill Goldie through Iowa League of
Yep.
Cities, and he was the city administrator for years. They did it also. It doesn't cost the city anymore.
No more discussion until we have a second.
I will do a second.
Okay. Now we can have discussion.
I just thought probably we were opening a can of worms here.
It's kind of what I
I
was
didn't
thinking
want
too.
everybody walking in thinking the city now was gonna stuff all of their little flyers.
It just has to be nonprofit,
And it has to be quarterly.
yep. And it's up to their
Only one
discretion.
page.
If they have too much stuff in there, they'll say no.
Right.
And that's just how it's gonna have to be.
Because otherwise
I
they're gonna.
believe if, as long as it stays in the normal postage range,
Right, cannot go
I
over.
don't feel like it's a problem, and if it goes over the normal postage range, then the city can say no.
Yep.
They would have everything printed out.
Printed out.
folded,
They have to do
ready
all
to
that.
go.
Everything's
That's
gotta
what
be
we've done
done.
with the chamber, or,
Okay.
yeah, the chamber
Right.
before.
And those of you that stuff those, you still know the work, extra work that's.
Well, this is it.
Yeah.
I already discussed
Yeah, we already
it.
discussed
We
that.
said,
You got a folder, don't you? One of
Oh,
those.
but
oh,
We're not gonna
we
talk
don't
about
even
that.
wanna talk about
That
that
doesn't put in the
folder.
envelopes.
Yeah, right.
Okay, I will come and help then. I've got little girls that could come in and help. Kelly, you too.
In the summer.
Oh no, they can do it after school.
Oh, yeah, but they don't wanna probably be here after school.
There you go.
So how did this come about? Somebody requested that?
Well, the chamber did it, used to do it, and there have been a resolution. And then the Legion is trying to raise money for a great big flag for the school that gets lowered. It's huge. It gets lowered so the Legion is trying to raise money for that.
And I know when I went to the meetings, I mean, they stress quite a bit that the city should be sponsoring as much stuff as they, as much stuff as they can, and being involved as much stuff as they can. And I feel like this doesn't cost the city anything, and it,
So why resolution now? I mean, if you've been
Because,
kind
If you
of.
don't have it.
Yeah,
Pardon?
Bill Goldie recommended that we have something,
In black and white.
yeah, so we're not inundated with everybody bringing in flyers.
I think the limitations are on it, who can do that. And the recommendation was that, nonprofits only, so other people can't come and put their sale flyers or whatever.
But, I guess my thought is on certain flyers can't go on our board out front there.
Nonprofit can go up front.
Right, nonprofit, but other things outside of that can't.
Right.
But we don't have a resolution for that, so why do we want to do a resolution for this?
This was just recommended by Iowa League of Cities.
I think we need that.
You never know, there might be a resolution for that.
If we've been doing some of it, we probably better have something in writing,
I think so too. And I don't
so we have
remember
something to go back
And it
on.
does say,
in all my
at the
years that I've been
city's-
here that
city's
we have done
discretion,
any
So,
Yeah.
of
And
the
what
other
Bill
people.
Goldie said, that he used to do flyers in the city mailer limited to local nonprofits. So local and service organizations is what.
So are we gonna ask them to show us their 501c authorization if we don't know for sure?
I would hope most of them know
yeah.
Well,
if they are or not.
Well, if Michelle ever says, are you a 501c3
they look
nonprofit,
at
and they look at you like, what the heck is that?
Then
You
you-
probably
they are
know
not.
that they're not nonprofit.
They are not.
Or this resolution doesn't say 501c3, there are other
Nonprofit, yeah.
nonprofits
Yeah.
that are
Yep.
So
501c3.
it
Right,
just says
well, just
nonprofit.
generally,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was just saying, if you said that part.
It should, yeah, they'll give you that blank look. Yeah, and I just didn't want to see Alana and Michelle swamped with all these people thinking, oh boy, here we go.
I don't think you're gonna be,
that's
yeah.
happen.
And
And, you know,
that's, and you got the quarterly in here, so I think
Yeah.
that's kind of.
So, because what are we thinking of for the nonprofits here in town? You've got Chamber, you've got, essentially the Wonderland Theater is considered.
Daycare.
The daycare is, Splash,
Critters.
you guys are nonprofit.
You can
Legion.
look it up on the IRS website and it lists all of them. You
Okay.
search Paullina and it has active and inactive, and active currently there's
So there really isn't a whole lot of nonprofits. It's not like I want to go and have a community garage sale just
No,
random
right.
people and have it done there. No, I'm not nonprofit, but just these ones that have been doing it for years. Again, I mean, we've been doing it for quite a while.
Call the question.
All right. Let's see, this one is a resolution, so
All right.
roll call vote, please.
Okay. Steve Herron,
Aye.
Jenny Workmeister,
No.
Jean Enra,
Aye.
Nicole Jacobs.
Aye.
Carol Hunkell.
Aye.
4 ayes, resolution passes. All right, thank you. Item 11, financials.
Okay.
Which you just passed out tonight.
Yeah, your fund balance on the front.
Yep.
I don't have any questions on that. Bank cash report is the second page, and as you see, it's off that same exact amount. That
At least
cash,
it's consistent,
it is, and, yeah, it is.
and that's what,
Sure.
So that means nothing's, I mean, it's.
And that will probably get adjusted at the time we do amendments and
right,
such.
and everything.
Yeah. And then we have the budget report. We're still doing well. We have those couple amendments that we'll be making,
Switch gear and sewer, right?
right? And then treasurer's report. And this is just for everyone to look at the next couple weeks. We won't approve it till the next meeting. So if you have questions, let me know. And
Okay.
Maureen's, we've been busy with other things, so Maureen hasn't been with me to do this stuff, the financials, so.
Sure. Okay.
And then the last page is revenue.
So have we seen our funds to increasing since we did our utility adjustment?
It's still kind of early.
Okay.
Let's see.
Because those just came into effect, what, a month and a half ago?
Yeah, we're always a
November
month
the first one?
behind, October 15th.
So it was actually the November bill. So,
I know that we've had people that have seen a difference.
Okay, well, please get back to Michelle with any questions you
Yeah.
have, and then she can explain the
And
answers to those.
Before you leave, let me get you the expense report. I don't have it in here, it looks like.
the what?
Expense report.
Oh.
I have the revenue report, but I don't see the expense report in there.
All right. Council ready to move on to the next agenda item? Okay. Item number 12, set a budget workshop. Michelle, can you give the background a little bit about what this is going to be like and what you're already talking to department heads about?
Yeah, as you know, our levy is a little over max. So we have a little over 284,000 to work with in the general levy and for our general fund. And we've got 5 departments to fund out of that. So we're gonna have to make some serious cuts. I talked to Iowa League of Cities, and there's cities that are cutting staff. There's cities that where if they're short-staffed, they're not replacing. They're putting off maintenance. I mean, there's a lot of things that they have to do now
To make that levy.
to make this work.
Oh my gosh.
To make the 810 work,
Mhm.
and we're at 812.
Yeah,
So what money what's that, is the money difference?
$1,200, it's not,
Okay.
Is that the
the difference between 812 and
812 and
810.
10? Yeah, it's just a couple $1,000s.
So, we really have to cut back. I mean, we can't have budgets that are 3/4 of our general levy.
You said it's 284,000? So, okay.
So basically, if you look at the fire department, it was request 190,
93.
and the library was 140. When you add those up, that adds up to be significantly above what we've got available from a general levy standpoint. So the idea was to get all those department heads together, go through, and kind of educate them on the levy. We've not really sat down with department heads to give them targets and to show the reality of what we have to work with, and then get everybody, looking at it that way, and then start.
Of course, we've never had it quite this low either, that we had to do this.
It was that way last year too.
Well, we had other levies we could depend on
Right,
too, right?
right, yeah.
Right.
That's more the issue than the 810.
Right.
You're
so
right,
now
where you
we-
can't levy for fire protection.
Yep.
But I do know that they're looking at putting some of those back in now when that'll happen.
Yeah, when that'll happen, with cities having had their budgets in and certified by April 30.
Right.
Yeah. that's
Well,
a
I'm
nice
not saying
time.
it'll be in this session, but.
Right.
Right.
Yep, and then the reality is, it's like, that the bad part of it is living within there. The good part of it is, it does keep our residents' taxes lower than if we could still levy on those items. So the pendulum probably swung too far the other way, but we're willing to land.
We just had that Steve guy here with grants and other things that they could go for,
Mm-hmm.
so there's different ways.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, a lot
They
of,
just have to do them.
a lot of lists, a lot of thoughts.
Yep. So we want, with Steve, and, that type of resource potentially, and, with our department, our various departments, library and stuff like that, we probably as a council and through the clerk's office, want to put people directly in touch with somebody like that, if that's what we're going to use. They can potentially factor in the cost of the grant writing into their budget, but then be able to get the grant, hopefully, to do what they want to do within their departments. So this agenda item is to schedule a workshop. Do you have some potential, you had a couple dates here?
2 days.
Yeah, the 20th or the 25th are the only 2 days that work for Ryan because of his work schedule.
The 20th does not work for me.
Me either.
Like Thursday, 20th?
Yeah.
Yep, no, I won't be.
Okay.
And then the 25th,
Correct.
that works for me.
Which is a Tuesday, week from today.
Works for me.
Yep, I can do the 25th.
Does that work for you, Dan? Steve?
Yep.
So 25th?
5:30 again, probably?
Yeah.
Okay.
5:30, you said?
30.
Yeah,
Okay.
is that workable?
Thursday, no, Tuesday.
We'll do that.
Kelly will bring the pizza.
Okay, let's vote on that.
We'll probably bring those little sandwiches.
Yeah, we'll bring those little sandwiches for everybody.
Did you like those?
Yeah.
They're good.
All right.
We each get a little container.
We'll go on to the next item, 13, electric generation. Do we have something new that you hand out tonight, Michelle? or-
I do have an email. I think I gave it out to everybody. Kelly Top's email. This is what DGR has quoted for the free engineering. And this will answer a lot of questions, correct?
Right. Before you had to make all these copies.
So the motion to approve pre-engineering plans for electric generation, that's to the tune of 35,000.
Correct.
Okay.
And does anybody understand the, no?
All of these pages?
Yes.
So
Okay.
I just stopped.
Ignore those little print ones.
Oh, yeah, I was looking and I said, I will wait.
I thought too, we'll let Kelly tell us all the rest.
Yeah.
So if you go to page 29, that's where it starts, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that the right 29?
Yep.
It is.
It is until you get to the 30s that they change by 10.
Okay.
So
29 you can read, option 3.
Yeah.
So go to the first 29, the 20,
And then go down to option number 3 on that, table 1. and then go to,
So basically, the options are big new, a little bit smaller new, and then that same size used, right?
Right.
right, and we're looking more at option 3. So then if you turn to page, I think it's 3343, no, 3444, that was that page.
Which one is that?
What is it?
This one?
Where it starts with option 3.
Okay.
Okay, 34 is option.
So,
Oh, up there,
so
okay.
option 3 is actually says, where is it?
It says 34. but
Okay,
you've
yep,
been
I got it
44.
here.
Says 34, but it's really 44.
Yeah,
Which is one of the means of funding a 20-year bond at 4%, right? That's what that table says. So what was the assumption here that the principal amount, the annual bond, no, let's see, is less than the 2.1? So the annual bond payment, that's principal and interest? Is that right or not? So page 34 says that we have, with the bond proceeds, would be $1,283,720, right? Upper left-hand box.
Right?
And that could get paid off over 20 years at just under $100,000 a year of principal and interest. So we would still have to come up with another, what, 800,000 for a period of time until we would get MRES funds back? Or am I getting off track?
We wouldn't get any money from MRES until that thing was operational and online.
Okay?
So we'd have to front,
We have to front the 2.1 million, 2.15
we'd
million.
have, yep. And then once that's up and online, we'd get a lump sum payment of, where's that one sheet? You got the MRES sheet, and then put it out.
I think it's before page 29. Page 27. Is that when you're thinking of?
This one.
Where it says, yeah.
Yeah, we get, they pay us 5 kilowatts
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Then they
per
want-
month
yeah,
so
27.
there's
for,
the one in front of me is more updated. The one in front of this 4 kilowatts, $4 per kilowatt. The other one was an older.
yeah,
The other one's
25,
22.
2025, the payment, it'll be $5 per kilowatt a month, adjusted annually, and you get a lump sum payment of, let's see, 4 kilowatts a month multiplied by 10 years. So you get a lump sum pay, and I think, last I heard, I think that did go up to 5.
I thought I read that too someplace.
That's what it
Yeah.
says in the letter, is 5.
Yeah,
So you get 5 kilowatts per, or $5 per kilowatt per month for 10 years, paid in a lump sum. That would take care of most of it. Because that would be,
Most of the 2.1?
we'd get a lump sum payment out $1,110,000.
So their 2.1 funding need down to,
So 1.1?
about,
And when would we get that?
After it's online,
after it's running.
yep, after it's hooked up and all the tests are done and
How long
Which
does
time,
that
I was just
take?
gonna say, time frame?
You're looking at
I mean,
2028.
Yeah, because he said like 2 years, right? A year?
yeah, 28, 29 before it's
Running?
So part of it was I asked Kelly to take a look at it and give us a rough idea of how much are we gonna spend to engineer it, and then ballpark, what does that mean? Which those numbers will get trued up more during the engineering process.
Right.
So it'd be a 2.1, if I call it 2.2 million, that we would have to claim somewhere with, along the way. Probably a year later, when, we could pay down 1.1 of the 2.2 million. And then the rest of it could be serviced over a 20-year period or whatever we want, with the money coming in to pay the remainder of the bond down.
If you look at that last one there, you go to option 3, the last dealer says percent of project funded by MRES payments, and at the bottom there it's 46% funded by
Oh, I see that.
MRES.
That's one of these, sitting in this page.
35.
Page 30.
I mean, depending on what you do for years and,
Here it shows that too.
Which is also the very last page of the document.
Yes, that, you can use that.
Page 50 gives you that same
Right.
46%.
Shows that DGR, what they did, 1, 2, 3.
So
Easier
overall,
to read.
what we're saying is that
Yeah.
overall, over a 20-year period, we will get more money from MRES than we will be spending.
right. And that money they give us yearly. I think they pay that annually, the 5 kilowatt, that's an ongoing thing in it. I mean, it'll go up.
So every year, you don't get a monthly check, you get a one-time.
You
One time a
get
year.
paid annually.
So just give some perspective on, do we want to approve engineering or not to get that done? Michelle talked to Bill Goldie about a number of things, budget and things like that. What did he tell you about the?
Generation was a good thing.
Okay. It's an awful expense, but how can you live without it if we don't do it?
If we had a chance to, this great chance to go for it, we should.
Yeah, especially when you're gonna get this money back, I mean,
Over time, though.
right, I know, but it's better than nothing back.
To me, that's a big issue.
I know.
Number one, we gotta take the bond for, a GO bond for the 800,000, right? I mean, we don't have that anywhere. It wasn't budgeted,
You and Maureen can't find that?
at least probably
I mean, but
800,000,
this-
if not the,
It won't be this budget.
No, it wouldn't be ready by this budget.
No.
right, so we're looking into
So do we still have
25,
to agree with
26.
all the
Right.
engineering?
Okay, well,
No.
that makes me feel somewhat better. So the 35,000 is just to do what?
Just to get the pre-engineering done, get more of the cost done, stuff like that.
And then contractors can bid on what's that, or will there be more engineering?
The contractors can bid on what he gets done with that,
Okay,
but, I mean, you guys would still have to approve it to go to contractors and what, stuff like that.
And then we still have time, do we do a grant then in there too? Of
I
some
don't know
sort?
if you,
Can you do
I
a
don't
grant
know.
with
You have
this?
to
I
bond.
would say I don't.
Yeah,
You don't
I don't
think you
know
can
if
do a
you
grant?
can with
Oh,
something like
really?
this.
so this includes everything, right? Where are we gonna locate this generator first? Do we have an idea?
Well, I would, if it were my decision, we would take down like the old digger shed, or
Which one building is that?
it's the white one across from the park.
City Park. And then, does this dollar amount include demo and site preparation and?
The, where, what page is the
Go to
one
page
with the-
29. Let's see, oh, there's another one. Let's see, where is that?
The 31,
Oh, yeah, there we go.
So it is included?
It is.
Okay.
Civil and structural, generator foundation, earthwork.
conduit. Mobilization.
Okay. It's on there. 2 more pages.
this, the engineering for electric generation, can that be paid out of electrical utility?
Is that the one that's pretty tight?
No.
No, okay.
Sewer, right?
Sewer, okay, oh, yeah, yeah.
So it isn't like we have to pay this out of our general levy.
Right, thank God.
So 35,000 is all we'll be spending this fiscal year.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And I've seen Michelle shaking her head, we got that?
Well, yeah,
I mean, we can make it, so that's all we spent, you know. We get this pre-sale done and we wanna wait till next budget, then we, you know, it's
Then
your
you don't
guys'
issue
decision
them?
to wait
Okay.
until you're ready to go on with the project.
Or to get the money.
We'll
Yep.
need to, yeah, we'll need to do some work on a GO bond too, like, for a certain amount. Am I thinking right on that?
I think so.
Which one's that for? You're talking about you mentioned the 800.
Well, that was just a number that I heard, but that's what will have to happen, right? Because we buy the turbine up front, right? The cost of that.
You buy the generator front, right?
Yeah, excuse me, generator.
So does it have to be a GO bond, or could it be a revenue bond since it's electric?
You do a revenue bond.
We'll be needing to do something.
Right, yeah.
I think it'd be best to just do a revenue bond on it.
Well, we can answer those questions now.
Down the road, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
So if you look at the financials that Michelle gave us on the front page with the fund balances, you know, this 35 would get paid out of electric utility checking, right, where it's 2.7, which will go significantly down when a lot of that gets transferred to switchgear, but
Right.
still be.
Yeah, so we have something already to get going.
I just, you know, we have a lot of projects that we need to do, so we're gonna have to look at them as a group rather than individually. So, that's always my concern about how we spend our dollars, so.
I think that's why the revenue bond would be then it just comes out of electric and that's, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Ultimately affects our rates, our electric rates, you know, to pay that down, right? Probably. Ultimately it will.
Hopefully not.
We
Not
talked
if
about having
MRAS is,
MRAS do
Sure.
another,
Well, that's true.
what do you call that,
Rate study.
test or a?
rate study.
Rate study, yeah.
Right, and have you talked to them at all to see, Kelly, if that's, are we in, because I found the last one was in 22. So, do they tell you or do you call them and ask?
we just, I mean, you guys
They
would have
just
to.
show up?
We would have to
Ask
act
them?
and request,
Yeah.
to request them to do it.
Because when I couldn't believe I found it, but May of 22 is when we had it done.
And then before that, we hadn't done it in a long time.
Oh, really?
Okay, right, so with the MRES funding payment, yeah, that shouldn't be very easy. In fact, it should potentially lower them a little bit because getting more than it costs.
I'll move to approve pre-engineering plans for electric generation not to exceed $40,000.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, I assume we're ready to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say aye. Carried with all ayes. All right.
Getting the heat up, right?
Are you cold?
Cold in here.
I'm okay.
You were here at the last meeting, Maureen said you were with your winter coat on.
Yeah, she kept it on the whole meeting. And it was a long meeting.
I imagine the thermostat's probably programmed, right?
Does it naturally go down every night at 5 o'clock? Could you change that when we have meetings?
Saving utility costs. All right, item number 14, reports. Kelly.
Well, we have been doing a little bit of snow removal. We've been out a few times getting downtown and, have done curbs. They've been doing some maintenance, some tree trimming. We have had a lot of, sewer that we've had to clean out lately.
Really?
Because it's so cold?
I don't have
Was
an
it
answer for that.
city issues, or
It's the bands,
you have
right?
to check first, huh?
The bands, yes.
Oh,
It's a matter of, usually have to go to Hartley and get the jet and bring it
okay.
back
And they've
here.
always got it.
They must have more problems than we do.
Well, let's call it that way. We'll go there.
Anyway, we can stop our flashing streetlights.
The spring weekend.
I think it's kind of cool.
Unless you're an epileptic.
Well, yeah,
Right, does it
that
cost
might
more
affect you.
if they flash?
You'd think it'd burn them out faster, but.
You would think so.
Okay, anything else? Michelle?
Been looking at some software programs. Because we do have to either stay with G-Works and switch to the cloud or go with somebody else. And I'll send you all there's an email thread going through ClerkNet. And it's all the problems that I have with G-Works, so is everybody else. One person has waited over a year for her cash report to be fixed.
Oh.
One clerk is waiting because she can't do her bank rec until a ticket's answered. I mean, it's all the same things
Ongoing.
that we're going through. MRES does back a software called Tyler Technologies. It says quite a bit that MRES is backing them. Orange City has this Tyler Technology. Sioux Center, Rock Rapids or Rock Valley, Adrian, Minnesota. A lot of them are more north, but they're starting to come down this way. One of the good things with Tyler Technology and MRES is they have people right there at MRES that you can call and ask questions. And from what I've heard, she's great. Orange City has had Tyler Technology online for 2 years now. And they'll call MRES and then get an answer very quickly, unless it's something that is well over her head, but it doesn't happen often. Both G-Works and this Tyler Technology, we will have online payments. We won't have bank information on our computers anymore. It'll all be, it'll be a lot more secure. All that is handled through the software. We won't do credit card payments. It's all handled through the software. So none of that will be handled here anymore, which I think is good.
You said you had a folder, you had something from MRES that kind of showed you what the program was like. Did you?
I have, they actually sent me a recording of a demo if anyone wants me to email it to them. And you guys can look at that. They might be a little more expensive than G-Works.
I was just going to say, what's your fee? Do you know?
Not for sure.
Okay.
Tyler Technology's going to start around 15. G-Works is 13.
But you're
So
gonna
not
get better
too-
service.
If you
You
get
get
better
service
it's
and you
worth
could
it,
have
yeah.
somebody get back to you.
Yeah, and I talked to a couple of gentlemen at Tyler Technology, and they're putting together a package that's catered to us and what our needs are.
Oh,
So as soon as they get back to me on that, I'll let everyone know.
Great.
Do you think it would be worth your time to go to Orange City or one of those towns, just to kind of see how it all works, to take some afternoon, or, when it's not real busy?
Yeah.
I always think it's nice to go to the place and see how the program's working.
Yeah, I could do that.
I just think you would like that, make you feel more comfortable.
And we're kind of on a tight crunch because it's going to take a while to transfer all the data, even if we stay with G-Works. We're looking at the fall until they can even start any of
Really?
the.
That long? Ugh, I was hoping it could be done faster.
And we have to be on the new system by first of the year.
G-Works has to be in the cloud by December 25.
Okay, so you know it's got to be out there by then. Okay.
All right,
I
anything
will
else?
say my dealings with MRES in the last 11 years almost 12 years I've been here, they usually do their homework, and I don't believe they would be backing or sponsoring this company unless they did their due diligence and,
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Makes
that
them a
sounds
plus.
like a good idea.
Okay, anything else?
I don't think so.
That's the update. We still have a party interested in the clinic. We're hoping to have them here to kind of make a presentation on their business at the next meeting. And then know a little bit more about kind of the whole thing. We're looking at a significant remodel of the interior, which will cost some significant dollars, maybe $90,000 or $100,000. So they're going to, it'd be a clinic type of business here. They're going to want a good deal on the building to be able to, invest that kind of remodeling dollars in it. We'll hear more about that when they come, hopefully next meeting.
Good.
Sounds good.
Checked off.
Yeah, so that's really it. Council comments or committee comments? Anything that any of you have? Departments, Nate, anything? Fire, ambulance, library, airport are not here. Agenda item number 15.
I move we adjourn.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say aye. Carried. All ayes. Thanks for being here.
Yeah. Very curious.
Yeah, that's right. I figured you'd be.
Conversation is getting out with the video, because you guys, I didn't want to.
Oh, yeah,
You girls want a copy of all that stuff that he was talking about?
Oh, I took notes on my
Did you?
phone.
Okay.
There was the one he talked about, the cat one. We have looked into that one, but you have to have 65% of your funds raised.
Which one was that one?
The cat.
The catalyst one?
No, the,
Can't blame you.
yeah. So we looked at that one, we have 65% of your funds raised prior to
I can.
the work.
The rest of the cops over there.
I wrote that one down, that was a little 50.
Is
Yeah.
that one yours?
So I wrote it down, so